TikTok. Now I can hear you. TikTok is being banned in the US. Let's talk about it because this is going to be relevant to you being here on YouTube. So, of course, YouTube has short form content now. You can create TikTok like short videos and you can get monetized with those types of videos. But TikTok right now is going through some trials, literal trials in the US, as the government in the US are planning to enforce rules that will cause TikTok to be banned. So TikTok will no longer update its application in the US if everything continues to move forward in the direction that it currently is at the beginning of 2025. So what does this mean for you, the people who want to create content? You're creating content, maybe you might be creating on TikTok right now. Short form, maybe long form content. What does it mean? It means that if you're in the US, you won't be able to use the application after a certain date because the application will no longer receive updates to keep up to date with the changes that are made with your iPhone, Apple device, or your Android, maybe Google Pixel device. Meaning you won't be able to use TikTok on those US devices. Also including if you're trying to maybe use a different type of device to access TikTok, the whole application might not be available after a specific date when, of course, the application will not function correctly. Now, this is a bit weird. Why? You can access TikTok on the internet and there are going to be people that can use VPNs. Can you stop that? There might be a way that you can actually stop that. So in some other countries, there are ways that people can stop VPNs working correctly on a certain domain if it's deemed too dangerous in the country. So there are ways that it can be stopped even if you're trying to access TikTok on the internet. So don't think you can get around with it or get around it for long if you're using a VPN. If it's banned in a country, trust me, the government will find a way to make sure that you cannot access it in your country if the government are enforcing it to that measure. Because at the moment, things are still up in the air. Things could change. Donald Trump is about to take office on the 20th. This change is going in place on the 19th. So there are some things that are happening right now, and the 19th of January 2025, these enforcements will come into power as far as we know. Because Trump is taking office on the 20th of January, things could take a different direction. The commander-in-chief could turn around to the US government and the people or officials that are currently in charge right now and say, look, I want to go in a different direction. This is how I want to do things. But there's a spanner in the works. Elon Musk is one of the candidates who has been put forward to somebody who could purchase TikTok. And because that is the part of the legislation that is part of the enforcement that the US are making, the US government, they're saying they want it to be US owned for the reasons of data privacy and, of course, it not going to potentially the Chinese government. I cannot say if it has or has not the data from people using TikTok. I don't know where it goes because I'm not on the back end of TikTok. I don't know where your user information goes. User information is the guise or the topic that the US government are using to enforce these new rules on TikTok. And they are demanding that TikTok sell the application to a US CEO or person. So it's US owned so that the US users, their data and information is going circumventing back to the US. And, well, they're basically trying to make sure of that because they do not trust TikTok with the relations that they have. But this could go down for like any application, man. So if you launch an application in your country and it's not the US and you have US users, does that mean that they're always going to want you to be US owned? Because that's a bit of a strange thing. Like, because there's going to be applications that are going to be built in different countries. For example, Skype is not US built. There are other tech companies that are built outside of the US. Now, for a long time, the US has had a monopoly on the tech space. The tech industry has been predominantly US in terms of software, websites, and social media. It's very US based. There are some offshore tech companies, but what can happen is they can get bought out by a US person or entity, which is technically what has happened with many of the main innovations in that sort of tech space. And I'm talking about the virtual tech space. So I'm talking about websites and social media and places like TikTok and places where you can share videos and connect with other people and other individuals. It's been very US dominated. So having a non-US, even though there are like Eastern websites and stuff, like there's WeChat. WeChat's huge. Difference is there's not as many US users on WeChat. WeChat is one of the biggest social media networks on the planet. This is not Facebook. This is not Instagram. It's not Meta owned. It's not Elon Musk owned. This is out of their hands. And it's also not really communicating with US users. So is it sort of like a deterrent to try to build something in that space for US users? Is this going to be a knock-on effect for people that want to build websites and different applications? Is it going to be like, well, if we build it for the US, it's going to be an issue, so let's not build it for the US. Let's go for the rest of the world and the EU. That could be something that the new people who are building new social media and innovations and tech in that space could want to do. It could have a negative effect going forward if they're enforcing rules that do not seem fair to everybody else, because that would be like, well, I don't want to interact with them in that way. Then I'm going to interact with the rest of the world and my side of the world and where we've built these tools. That's technically what has usually happened with these type of tools, which is the reason why there are other Chinese apps that you cannot really say are mainstream in the US and in the West right now. That's one of the reasons why, because they're not being surfaced to you, the user, who's looking to communicate with other individuals online. Most likely, you're going to get Meta, you're going to get X, you're going to get Blue Sky, something that's Western built, Western owned, Western engineered, more likely in this sort of US to the UK maybe area. And you can see some parts of the EU as well, where there are tools that have been bought by the US. So it's a very sort of, I say, you could say it's what's the word I'm looking for? Anti-competition, like, because I think that was part of like the legal battle that some of the lawyers for TikTok were having. But I'm not going to try and say that TikTok are a squeaky clean company. I'm not even going to try and say that all of their practices are in the best interest of the users. Me as a user on TikTok right now, I'm facing some battles with my content, gaming content, constantly. It's a constant battle where they're basically using their community guidelines to censor the type of content that they don't want in or to pay for. It's not even that their content's banned, it's that they don't want to pay you for something that they don't deem is okay for their policy. So they can make that decision, and some of the policies are very stupid. Right, so for example, let's say you've got a low quality gaming content, but the context is you or something that you've done that is funny. You're showing yourself playing a low-end game. So the quality is always going to be potentially bad or worse than what's deemed to be very, very high quality. Let's say you're playing a retro game. The retro game you cannot stream in a 4K, 1080 or anything like that. You can bump up the quality, but it's only going to go so far. TikTok will actually flag you for low quality if you're playing that game. Because what will happen is that will then go to low quality, and then you won't be able to be paid by the creator fund when you're playing that game due to its low quality. Meaning that all of that context between you playing the game, the actual real context, maybe you've done something funny, something very unique, something's happened that is only going to happen in that situation, something special has happened, and you're showing that to your audience, and you're trying to get money from your passion or whatever you've done, the creation that you've now created and shared with the world. Much like all of the rest of the content that exists online right now, it's earning from ad revenue or different sources of revenue. TikTok are saying, from what I can see and my interaction and what's happened with my 4K or 1080 next gen quality gaming content, they're saying some of it is like low quality, and it's down to a really small element of the actual gameplay. For example, Assassin's Creed Mirage. When I'm playing Assassin's Creed Mirage and I use focus sequence, you know that the animus glitches. So the glitch is a part of the game. Much like Neo in the Matrix, if he's breaking the Matrix starts to glitch out. It's an intention of the game to show that the game is glitching, to show the user that there is something happening that is affecting the technology in the game that you are looking at, right? So that's basically what's happening. The Animus, the world that is built, is having an issue because Basim is moving so quick. The character is moving so quick, and that's what's happening. So you're meant to be seeing the glitch. And of course, the screen also glitches. So you have this effect where there is distortion on the screen. Very slight visual element detail that is added to these sequences. TikTok are saying they have an issue with that because it's low quality. So instead of actually realizing that it's actually the context of the game, they're just like, nah, low quality. So that means that anything that has that sort of element should also be treated the same, and you won't be able to get the money that's being generated and the millions and thousands of views that are then coming to your video from the creator program or creator fund that they've got over on TikTok right now. That is a huge issue. Right, that is a very stupid issue to have. Right, so basically, some of these videos that I've uploaded on there, they're still getting thousands of views, sometimes millions of views, and I can't get paid for it because they're saying the low quality of the glitch in the game without them actually knowing. So to me, it just sounds like AI. So then I'm having to go to the back end to actual TikTok and go, yo, sort out your back end of how this works because your AI is constantly saying and misunderstanding the context of the game. So it's like, are they actually looking and watching the content when they're reviewing it? I don't think so, no. And if they are, it could be somebody that's completely malicious that just says, nah, fuck you, don't like you, don't want you to get paid from that. Let's just continue to generate the views and we'll take everything from you. So you don't have any say in the matter, and it's just really, really silly. So there are issues on TikTok, the platform right now, and that's an example of one of them. There are many. There are a lot. It could be something that you said and it doesn't understand the jargon you've used. And then the AI is like, this is hate speech. And it's like, I just said the word dog. You know what I mean? So it's things like that that I think that the software, the TikTok really suffers with, and it goes against it and gives it a bad look. It doesn't really help the platform when you're going through a legal case right now for US users and data privacy. Although, of course, that is an issue within itself. It's self-contained. It's completely separate to this issue that I'm talking about here. But it doesn't really look good for your user base when you're having those issues on top of a data privacy and US data information issue that the US government are then penalizing you for. So you need to be squeaky clean, TikTok. So those little issues that you think are really small are actually quite big, because that goes against you, and the US government are going to be like, see, you're shady, you can't even get that right. If you can't get that right, how are you going to get our data right? You see what I'm saying? If you cannot get a small issue right with your individual users, how do we expect TikTok to be able to handle the data information that is very important to each user of the US if you can't handle those smaller issues? That does not look good. And yes, I'm impartial to whose side that I sit on, because I'm a UK user and I can still use TikTok today. But I still think it's important to US users, when they're going through this court case, these little things TikTok really needs to scrub clean and fix up. Otherwise, it's not really going to help them in the cases that they raise for in their defense to be able to still do business practices in the US. There are a lot of users, millions of users, like 190 million or something in the US that are currently using TikTok, if not more. There's a lot of people that are currently using TikTok for their income. This will no longer be the case if things continue to move forward in the way that they are. Am I going to say that they're the best? No. Am I going to say that they're the worst? No. They're not the worst or the best place for short form or long form content. Right now is a very competitive, pivotal time in 2025 to be able to have a court case that is going to ban you from a complete territory. That is going to go against TikTok, and they will then need to really get behind their users in order to fill that void. So being able to fill that void after this ban goes into place is definitely going to be important. And those little issues that TikTok are having, they might want to fix up right now, because if you don't, it's really going to go against you and you could become Vine. It's that simple. TikTok could become Vine. Now, although the US market is very big, there are other markets that it could still thrive and grow in, which is the reason why I'm saying if the ban goes into place, they need to really fix up those little small issues. That's why I'm raising that as a point now, because we're not 100% sure if the ban is going to go into place at this current moment in time. There's only a few more days to see what's exactly going to happen. And of course, you still have those updates that will be banned, and then it won't be able to be downloaded for new users on the App Store. So when the US users go to the App Store, if this ban goes into place, they won't be able to find TikTok. If you've already got it on your device, you'll be able to use it, but the updates will not be given to you. And then, of course, the app's going to be outdated, and you can't use it in future anyway. There's a whole bunch of stuff going in that tech space right there. Can TikTok pull this back? Potentially, yes. Am I rooting for them? Meh. Because you've got these stupid ass issues, and that's the reason why I'm not fully on your side. I'm kind of like, yeah, you could be better, so be better, do better. But that's what I'm kind of saying. Do better. If you want my vote to help you, right, in this issue, do better. There are TikTok users right now who do not feel that the places that are an alternative to TikTok, they don't feel those alternatives are a good alternative. They don't believe that things like YouTube Shorts and other stuff are the right way for them to go. So they're going to another Chinese application. There were many different reasons why they're choosing to do this. I knew they were going to do this already. I didn't even need to explain anything. I already knew that the TikTok users were going to go to another Chinese app. Now, here's the thing. ByteDance is the company that is the parent company behind TikTok, and they are the ones that are currently in the legal battle to keep TikTok doing its business practices in the US. But this new app, RedNote, is owned by Tencent and another very large company. If you go to court with Tencent, they are so big, right? You thought you took down Goliath the giant, and now you're going to have to face a much bigger giant, right? So if the US then wants to ban RedNote as a result of them still thinking that this new Chinese application is going to steal their data and send it to the Chinese government, then they're going to have a much longer legal proceeding. It's going to be much harder. ByteDance is much smaller than Tencent, from my understanding, because I can already see the types of stock that they own. Well, from my knowledge that I'm putting from the top of my head, I'm like, it's a very big company. So if you're going to go to war with Tencent, I know that's going to be a much longer legal battle process. So the TikTok users that are then fleeing, or they call themselves TikTok refugees, them TikTok refugees who are now going to this RedNote application, if you're thinking that you're going to take down the RedNote application in time to keep the TikTok users from going there, you got another thing coming, because you got a long legal battle, US government, to take down RedNote if you choose to do that. I'm not putting anything out there, but what I will say is that is definitely going to take a very long time compared to what your legal battle was with TikTok. Plus, you're going to have a new commander-in-chief by then, sworn into office, who might have a different point of view on these matters. And of course, he's got Elon Musk on the other side, who basically wants to build the Everything app. So he would probably want to buy them all out and then integrate that into what X is now. X, the Everything app, is his idea for social media. So of course, buying out everything that's his competition makes sense, because that's what conquerors do. They buy, destroy, and rebuild it. So you take the resources of the places that you've conquered and you change it into what you want. That's what Elon wants to do. That's Elon's mission with social media. He wants to build the Everything app, so therefore he needs to conquer everything else to build it into the Everything app. Duh. Right, so all of you that who didn't understand that, I'm like, what do you think the Everything app is, bro? Short form content needs to come over as well, doesn't it? You need to change X into that. That's a long journey, Elon. So if he manages to do it, fair dues. Is he going to take down TikTok? Potentially. Is he going to buy TikTok? Potentially. I don't know, because I can't see the back end of how they're trying to destroy this app. But what I do know is those users from the US are no longer going to be able to use it potentially in a few days. So that means that if you're on the side of Elon Musk and you're in government, then you might do things a little bit differently to help Elon with that success of the Everything app. Hopefully I've explained all of that, because it was on my head and I wanted to just get it out right now. But if you have any thoughts or opinions on the TikTok ban in the US and if it's going to go through, is it not going to go through? Are you watching this on a later date and something's happened? What happened? Did I predict something? Was one of my predictions right there? I don't know. Let me know. I'm going to have a cup of tea. I'm going to sip it down. My name's Anthony Allen. I wanted to talk to you right now in this content. Real talk from me to you on the TikTok matter. I'm going to upload more than one video on it as well. I'm sipping my tea. On the screen right now, you should see some additional content. Slap that. And remember, I've also got this YouTube plaque right here. Oh yeah, click on that content, and I'll see you in the next one. My name's Anthony Allen. Thanks for watching, man.